Welcome to another episode of Chatting with Stax. I'm your host, Bill-Staxx, and today I got my good friend, Mike Mkali. What's up, Mike?
What's going on?
Chilling, man. I've been wanting to get you on here for a while.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man. So, when did everything happen for you? When did you start falling into the trouble aspect of life?
Well, I probably was falling in the trouble aspect of life. Excuse me, when I was a teenager. I kind of was in survival mode, so I kind of just had to fend for myself and just start making drastic moves. I'd say out of desperation, probably, but then it kind of led into other things.
How old were you around then?
I'd say about 16. 16, I started getting really involved in marijuana and partying a little bit, but more or less doing things to try to create money and income and to support myself, support family, to buy clothes, stuff like that.
Yeah. So, did you get in trouble
Well,
early on?
yeah, I got into a little bit of trouble. Say when I'd say I was pretty good at keeping myself out of trouble. I just stayed under the radar a lot, but I got into an incident one time where I think I was 24, and I had been selling weed since I was 15. So, and I got busted on campus at 15 too, but they didn't catch nothing on me, but I still got suspended. Long story. But when I was
Yeah.
24, I actually we went on vacation. I went to Tahoe, and someone broke into my house, and my house alarm was going off. Uh, One of my friends went over there, turned the alarm off and everything. They had broken a back window, but before they had turned it off, the cops had actually showed up to the house, and they kind of went through the home. And when I got home from my trip, my triple beam was in my kitchen, and there was a police card sitting on top of the triple beam.
Oh man.
So I was, it got, that make you worry a bit. This is back in 1994, 93, 94. So, shit was still illegal then. I
Yeah.
ended up we ended up moving out of the house. That was what we came down to doing. Once we moved out of the house, the last load of stuff in the U-Haul, we were in the U-Haul getting ready to pull out. We live in the cul-de-sac, a white
Did
Thunderbird.
you ever call the cop back when he left the card?
Oh hell no, no,
No.
no.
Of course not. Of course not.
No. But when we were leaving with the last load of moving out of that house, a white Thunderbird pulled into the cul-de-sac, and two guys got out in suits, and they pulled out their badges out from around their neck, walked up to the U-Haul, and started asking us questions. At this point, I think they felt like we were out, we got away. We're doing so. They started asking us stupid questions about about crazy stuff. Sorry about that.
Did
But
so did they want you? Did they find any drugs when they came into your house?
no. Well, what's funny about that is the person that broke in the house, they went to my partner's room. They took he had all the indoor fire weed. They took his weed. They took his. I don't even think he took his weed. Actually, I think they took a VCR and a bag and a jar of change. They stole my bike and they took off out the house. When I got home, all of my weed was still in. I had this little Tupperware, or not even a little tin next to my bed. And back then, I was dealing with that Mexican pressed weed, and it all fit in this tin. It was like about a pound and a half, and it was still there. It was all still there. I couldn't believe it,
Yeah,
man. I was
it
like,
was probably some little kids broke into your house.
I would imagine it was someone I know. It's always someone I know.
Thanks.
They just did.
Yeah,
They just didn't know what they were
probably
looking for.
eyeballing your stuff when they came to buy some stuff off you. Maybe.
I've had my house broken into like 3 or 4 times, and every time it's always someone we know. I always know. I've caught people almost red-handed showing up to my house. All my stuff's packed in boxes out my front door and out my
Really?
back, and yeah, and they ran out the back and hopped the fences and got away. But this is
Wow.
what happens when you're dealing with fucking illegal, selling substances and stuff. Just
So is
people
it normally people like that are close to you? It's your friends
people that
that
yeah,
are. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's always that way. People that act
Wow,
like
man.
you're your friends could be jealous of you, could be
Yeah.
envious, could Just we wanted to get some money. You just never know.
Yeah. So
But
your time dealing with that weed situation, do you have any situations that happen to you that stand out that you haven't talked about before that you could tell me about?
Yeah, we were me and my buddy Jake and another partner of mine, we ended up taking a road trip to Chico, Chico State University, and we were there, and it was really it was like I don't know how to explain it. It was such a fraternity, sorority type of atmosphere that I just wasn't feeling it. So we said, hey, let's just get in the car, and we're not too far from Reno. Let's just drive to Reno. So we ended up driving to Reno. We don't realize my buddy Jake, he doesn't have tags. Didn't even have his license. We didn't even realize this. We thought he was all good. His dad is best friends with the mayor in our town. So we just figured this guy rolls legit no matter what. But obviously he wasn't rolling legit.
He didn't even have a plate on his car?
He had a plate, but he didn't have the tags. It wasn't registered.
Oh,
so we ended up going all the way to the Bunny Ranch, and I think the Mustang Ranch actually. We're at the Mustang Ranch, and we walk in. We start looking around. We've got a couple drinks. Start talking to some girls. Figured out the prices. We weren't like loaded at that time, so we said, you know what? Let's just go back into town, get a room, and go gamble. And if we win some money, we'll come back. So we did that, and when we got back into the van, we started smoking. And then we get I'd say about 2 miles down the road, we get pulled over by a CHP. CHP smells the weed in the car. This is when Nevada was a non-tolerant state. So my buddy's in a wheelchair that is driving, my buddy Jake. He's driving the vehicle, and he ends up he has a sack of weed under his ass. I have mine, but I put it in the glove compartment, and then my buddy in the backseat has like a quarter pound of weed on him. So when the cop pulls us over,
all the weed is all personal except
it's all personal. Yeah, it was all personal.
You guys carry that much around for personal use?
I don't know why my other partner had that much. I had like a quarter. My other partner, my buddy Jake, had a quarter, and the guy in the back had a quarter pound. So we were he had bought a bunch of pipes. The guy in the back had bought a bunch of pipes and all kinds of stuff to smoke with.
Yeah,
yeah. And so we ended up. The cop comes to my window. He rolls the window because I smell weed in the car. Who's smoking weed? So I'm just like, I'm thinking California. I'm not even tripping. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And so I give him. He goes, "Let me have the bag." So I give him the bag. He takes it. I don't know. I can't remember what he did with it. Then he pulls me out of the car, and it's freezing. It's snowing. It's in December, and it's right after Christmas. So he has me out of the car, and I'm sitting out there, and then he's talking to my boys in the car, and they go, "Hey, are you gonna let him back in the car?" And he goes, "Oh no, he's going down. He's going downtown." And I was like, "For weed?" And I'm like, "All right." But at this point, I didn't even know what was going on. He takes me, handcuffs me, puts me in his front seat, not the back seat, puts me in the front seat of his car in the passenger seat. Takes my other partner, Donald, out of the car. He calls the dispatch for a paddy wagon because my buddy's in the chair. He couldn't get him in the car. So as he does that, he gets my other partner out of the car, sets him on the hood of his car.
They're arresting everybody.
Yeah, that was his goal. He ends up setting my partner on the top of the trunk of the car, starts talking to him on his car, starts talking to him. So I want to hear what he's saying. So I actually maneuvered myself over to his window and got to roll the window down just enough so I could hear the conversation. And he's talking to my partner. He goes, "Why do you have a quarter pound of weed?" He goes, "I'm a heavy smoker." He goes, "You smoke this much weed?" He goes, I smoke an ounce a day. And then he found all the pipes and utilities stuff. He goes, "What's it?" He goes, that's so I could smoke. I like smoking out of different things. And he was just giving him shit. And my buddy was being real sarcastic with him right back. And they ended up putting him in the back seat. Then he ended up calling dispatch because he just figured it was going to be too much of a hassle. And he actually lets my friend Jake go. And so the dispatch was mad at him. They're like yelling out, you told us to bring a paddy wagon out there, and now you're letting him go. So he ends up taking off. We ended up getting down to Sparks County, and we were in there. It was a Friday night, so now we're spending the whole weekend in over because they don't let you out till Monday. I had to call my mom. So my mom was a heroin addict, so I had money hidden in my house. I was so nervous to have to rely on her to get the money to take it to a bail's bond to get us out. I was like, man, I go, we're either going to be here for a lot longer and be broke, or she's going to actually come through. And fortunately, she came through. Monday, about 2:00 in the morning, they called our names. We get out. We ended up getting out. And that was my first stint dealing with being in jail.
Yeah, like just being away from your family, not being able to leave.
Right.
It doesn't matter. One day is too long, man. I can't.
Well, inside there, dude, it was the funniest stuff, dude. We got our first meal. We sat down at this table, and these two guys walked up to us, and we're already getting punked. They go, "This is our table." I just kept eating. I wasn't trying to pay attention to them. My partner Don, he's a small dude, man. He decides to literally looks over both of his shoulders like he's looking at the back of his chair, and he goes, "I don't see your name on his chair." And he keeps eating. The dudes all of a sudden they just sat down with us and started eating. I was like, damn.
Oh man.
And I have a shit-eating grin on my face. I just want to laugh so hard at what he said. And then we ended up going over. They had a TV on some sitting on wheels or something. You know, like when you were in school.
Yeah, like push it on the cart. It's like on a cart.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So we're sitting there watching it, and this guy comes over to us, big. He looked like, I don't know if you remember Kevin Green that played for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
This with blonde hair.
Yeah.
This dude walked over to us. He puts his hands on our shoulders, me and my buddy. Man, I was like, man, what's going on? What's gonna happen? He goes, what are you guys in here for? We go, oh, we're in for some marijuana. And he goes, that ain't nothing. Everyone in here is in for speed. He goes, I run this joint. He goes, I run this joint. I go, okay. And he sees a guy walking by to the bookshelf to get a book. He goes, hey, give me a fucking book. Guy grabs him a book and brings it to him. We're like, oh shit.
So now, was this county jail?
This was county in Sparks County. Yes, Sparks County Jail, dude. And then he ended up, we ended up being cool with that dude. Like I said, we got released on the experience was epic. It was just something I'll never forget.
And you were 24, right? 24 at the time?
I was about 23, 24 at the time. Yeah. Ended up flying back to Fresno, California, where I'm from Reno. And then, cause my buddy Jake, he took off. He drove all the way home. He was scared, drove home, whatever. Yeah. So then that was my first stint. And then when I got, later on, about 2005, I was up there growing. It'll be my second year growing up there in Mendocino County, and the feds came up there and got me up there.
So now, when the feds came and got you, was it because you were dealing with marijuana on the scales, like illegally, because you were doing illegal grows? Is that why they wanted you?
Well, okay, so I have not talked about this before, so I'm on any show. So I'll tell you. What really happened was there was three things that happened. There was the person that the property we were growing on. My good friend did a business deal with him to rent part of his parcels, and so we were growing on that parcel. But what we didn't realize was the guy that he got it from, which is a good dude. His partner came up one day to pick up some money, and when he was leaving the hill, he disappeared. So when he disappeared, his family put out, all kinds of letters to all the sheriff's departments, missing persons and all this stuff. So that was one reason why the feds came. The feds got involved. That was one.
I heard a lot of people up there disappear. Like they go to clip weed and they just vanish. Well,
this guy was a heavy. This guy would sit on the Capitol in Eureka, and he would actually he was an activist. But he had just gotten out of jail for dealing with all this stuff, and he came to pick up a good amount of money, a big chunk. And when he was leaving, they just found his truck on the side of the road, and he was gone. So that was one way. That was one thing the feds kind of started getting involved. The second thing was we had a guy that was pretty much a rat on our case. He got in trouble driving up north. He had like 30K on him, and his partner had some meth on him. I don't know how much. I think it was just enough to stay awake. But they got pulled over. He was scared out of his mind. They scared the shit out of him. Mm-hmm. He had no way to say where he got the money from. So I think they interrogated him, and he started giving information. And that was another lead. And then another lead was my partner who actually got us the property to grow on. I told you that rented it from the other dude. Yeah, he actually was dealing with this guy who was who sold coke, but that dude was actually an informant. Come to find out later. So because that's why he sold coke, because he wasn't going to get in trouble, because he was
Yeah.
giving information to the police or the feds, whoever he was giving his information to. So they had three different angles that to come at us with, and none of it really stuck. So they followed us, they wiretapped us, and they weren't getting anywhere. Oh, the fourth one was the one that really made their situation with the judge and everything really stick. Was that there was this guy Oscar Roselis, and I didn't know him. None of my friends knew him, but he was been dealing with AZ weed, and he was pushing it all the way through the United States. He was taking it all the way to Alaska. He was taking it to Chicago. He was taking it to New York. He had people delivering it everywhere. He was probably buying for $500 a pound, selling it for 12 to 13, and they were buying, 50 to 100 at a time. So he was really making a lot of money doing that. They had been
Yeah.
on him for 2 years. The feds had been watching him, and he dealt with cocaine. He dealt with a couple other things. And so one of my friends that we hung out with, they intervened a wiretap with him talking, and he ended up talking about my people. And so they thought that
Oh,
this guy was
man.
getting stuff from my people, and which we weren't. And that's how they tried tying us all together. And that's how they got their RICO Act.
Oh,
So
so they want to bring everybody together.
yeah, they try to put us all together for a RICO, and that's what they did. That was our charges, was RICO, and that's how they got us all together. But at the end of the day, when it all got said and done, they realized we didn't even know those dudes. But
Yeah.
that's how they did it. And then when they couldn't get anything on us on wiretap, they couldn't get anything on us following us. They told the judge we had a meth labs up in Mendocino County. So
Oh, man.
they sent the methamphetamine task force up to Mendocino County to bust us. And so when they finally they gathered us, I was the only one up on the mountain at the time. So when they got me, they brought me down to interrogate me after they caught me. They took me down to Willits,
So,
California.
so when they caught you, did they find the grow too? They found all the
Oh,
pot.
oh yeah, we had 75 plants. They were probably 10 by 10s, 10 feet high, 10 feet wide.
Wow.
But they were still under the guidelines of 99 plants
These
that
are
gets the
these
feds
are some of
involved.
your plant. These are some of your plants in the background. I got the pictures of.
Right. So
Yeah, man.
yeah, they ended up busting us on August 29th, 2005. I think the day Hurricane Katrina hit, or it might have been the day or two after Hurricane Katrina hit, but it was during that same time.
Yeah.
And they took me down from where I was at to Willits, California. They interrogated me there. They were asking me questions, how I knew my partner. I said, I grew up with them. What does he do for a living? He works at UPS. What else does he do for a living? He's taking his real estate license course. So what else does he do? He's on disability right now from getting hurt. And they kept asking me questions. And I'm like, listen, dude, I want a lawyer. And they go, that's the smartest thing you said. So they ended up taking me to Ukiah. And in Ukiah, they put me in a cell with another guy that was in my case. And then they took me and him down to San Francisco. We ended up fighting the case there for 2 weeks. I watched him and three other partners that they finally gathered. They sent us all to Santa Rita. We all went to court that one of the days, and on the way back, they put us in a holding cell. While we're sitting in the holding cell, they came in and they started name dropping, this guy, this guy, this guy, and they all got to go home. My last name wasn't called. I'm the only one left, and it's because I
Oh,
didn't have
man.
property to put up. Those guys all had people that had put property up to get them out on bail. I had a signature bond. I had two people come down to do that for me, but the prosecutor in Fresno, she denied it. So I ended up, yeah,
Damn, man.
she denied it. So I ended up having to go. They put me on Con Air. They flew me they flew me shackled and handcuffed with 300 inmates on like a 747. Flew me from Travis Air Force Base to Edwards Air Force Base. Drove me through the Mojave. Took me to Bakersfield, California, to a sheriff holding facility.
So
I'm in
now
there
this is
for
federal. This is
This is
feds.
federal. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
feds. I'm in there for a week. I had caught a staph infection in Santa Rita. They were treating me in Bakersfield with it, and then they ended up taking me to Fresno, California, a week later. And then I'm in Fresno with the main guy in my case. He's in Fresno County with me. We ended up hanging out for about a week or so, and then I finally made bail, only because my ex-girlfriend was freshly ex-girlfriend for 3 months. Her parents got involved and put up a house for me. I got
Wow.
out the day before my birthday. So
Wow.
I
You get him
yeah,
off, man. That's a
yeah, I
good
was
birthday present.
oh man, I was fortunate. So I had lost so much weight, dude. I must have weighed 170, 165. I was smoke skinny, dude. I was so skinny just from stress and in a 2-3 week span.
You know
You
that
know,
feeling when you first go to prison and you got that scared feeling. You don't know what's the anticipation of going there.
right, right.
So now that you've experienced prison, by the time that you're going to start going to court and everything, you with your co-defendant, all that's gone from you, right?
Oh no, actually, it got worse because they put a 15 to life on me,
Oh
and then
man.
they gave me everyone had $30,000 lawyers. I had a public defender.
Oh
So
man.
they kept coming back to him. He was bringing me back in the court saying, okay, we're going to give you, they want to offer you 5 years. I go, listen, I had my medical in the state of California. I was legal. I don't know why I'm pleading out. Plus there was not even no flowers on the plants when you guys busted me. So how in the hell do they even know how much weight they're trying to charge me for? They're just weighing the dirt and
Yeah,
they're
they weigh
weighing
this the
the,
stocks,
the
everything.
yep, they're weighing the dirt, the stock and everything. So then
Yeah.
from there they ended up they gave me three, they asked for me 3 years and they offered me 2 years, and then finally they got down to 15 months. Well, one of my co-defendants who they charged with the same charges, he had a lawyer from the Johnny Cochran firm. He actually took the 15-month deal. And when they did that, my lawyer said, "Hey, look, you're not going to get anything lower than this." And I said, "Okay." So I ended up taking the plea. Well, after I took the plea, all the people that were in my case they started calling me, which they hadn't talked to them the whole time. They're calling me, "Hey, you shouldn't have took that." I go, "Listen, dude, ain't nobody stuck up for me." I go, I have a public defender. I go, our other partner over here took the plea the same charges as me. I had to take this plea, and I want to get this over with. I mean, once you get busted by the feds, you're doing something. It's going on your record. It could be
Yeah.
time, you could be given money, whatever it is. You're not getting out of it. It's just you're
No,
done.
no.
So I took the plea. I ended up going to do my PSI
Now,
debriefing.
how much time were you in at this point? And did they count that time?
Yeah, I did. By that time, I had done a month and a half just by going through the different counties I was going through. And I was in three, one, two, I was in one, two, three. I was in four different counties before I got out to fight my case. And when I finally got out and fought my case, it took about a year. And then when I pled out, I had to go into a debriefing. In the debriefing, they were trying to get more information out of me, asking me questions like, so we heard that you were the guy that was bringing it down from the mountains, bringing it down to the Central California. And I mean, I'm scared out of my mind. They're
So
asking
you're
me,
already sentenced at this point. You
uh,
just got sentenced,
yes,
and they're
yeah,
trying to debrief you before you go back to prison. Is that what you're
right.
saying?
Or
Okay.
it might have actually been right before I took my 15 months. They might have debriefed me. It was one or
Yeah.
two. It's been a while. I just know that they were asking me questions. I was scared, and by the time every question they asked me, I just knew they were bullshit. They didn't know anything. So like when they asked me while I was driving it down, I looked at them and said, "Did you guys pull me over?" And they go, "No." I go, "I wasn't driving shit. What the fuck you're talking about?" So then they were like, "Okay." And then they asked me another question. And I started with my chin to my chest. By the time I was done, I had my chest pumped out. My chin was up. I was like, I felt so confident
Mm-hmm.
that I just, my lawyer's looking at me with his eyes like, what the hell just happened? And because
Oh
he was
man.
trying to sell me for it. He was trying to sell me. Our prosecutor's going, if you give me him and let him make him plead out this way, I'll give you on some other cases. I'll hook you up. I knew all this was going behind. I didn't have to hear it. I just knew it.
Yeah.
So after all that was said and done, then I had to go to a PSI report after I pled out, did my PSI report. I'm sitting there with my public defender and the probation officer. I had a I was really blessed. I had this what you call him, that works for the lawyer, a paralegal. I
The
had this
paralegal. Yeah.
paralegal. Yeah, I had this paralegal friend of mine. She did my PSI report with me, and she made it look like, I mean, It was immaculate, dude. It had little
Yeah.
tags. It was all sectioned off.
You
So
got
he's
character
asking me
witnesses and all that. Character
everything,
witness.
all
Yeah.
your letters of people for your character, all those stuff,
Yeah.
everything. So the guy's asking, he asked a question. I go, that's on page 7, and he looks. And he asks next one, oh, that's on page 10. He's looking, and then he stops and he goes, "This is the best PSI report I've ever seen in my life." He goes, "Most of the time when people come in here, I'm sitting here for 3 hours filling this thing out with them." He goes, "I can't believe how you have this together." So he's going through it, and he goes,
Yeah.
"You were conceived on acid?" And I said, "Yeah, my parents were on acid when I was conceived." Like, my mom told me. So all of a sudden, my public defender or public pretender, he starts going, he's just looking at me differently, and I can see his eyes getting big, and he's just really just starting to really look at me. At the end of it's all said and done, we're walking out the courtroom, or out of the office, out the federal building, and he goes, you know, 15% of the people, you're like the 15%. I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Most people in your situation end up like their parents. Most people in your situation ends up doing worse than their parents." Because you seem to be the 15%. You have a better head on your shoulders, and you're trying to do the right thing. I go, "I just caught up in a bad deal. That's all it was, man."
As you're about to go into prison.
Right, yeah. So he starts telling me about his daughter getting married. He really started breaking down. The good thing about that was, when I was getting ready to go, I get to turn myself in. So you're gonna laugh. I actually got to pick what prison I get to go to.
What?
So yeah, so they asked me. They go, "Well, where do you want to go?" And at first I was like, "I'm gonna go to Turlock, California, because it's right by my house. It's like about an hour away. People can visit." Then I find out that the Turlock prison, there's no weights. So I started doing my homework, and I found out the Lompoc near Santa Barbara, which is better weather. It's a lot further out. I probably won't get visitors, but
Mhm.
I'll have weights.
Trade
So
one for the other. Yeah.
yeah, so I did that, and then when I did that, they accepted me there. I was cool with that. I got to turn myself in. What was crazy about that was I did get visitors, and I had a lot of visitors. I couldn't believe it. It was
Yeah.
something that it was very unexpected. I just didn't think people would actually make the drive. So
So
it,
when you walk into prison, what is the atmosphere like in California prisons? Is it segregated? Do you have to stay away from other races? Like, because I know that you're like, I seen you on another show and you said, "Where do I fall into place?" Like, where, like,
right.
do you fall in with the black people? Do you fall in with the white people? Do you go with the Hispanics? Like, what? Like, what do
Okay,
you do?
so when I got there, I got turned into the medium. Being I wasn't going to the medium, I was going to a camp. So camp is, I could describing the camp as like being at a boot camp slash summer camp for men. And so I ended up getting to the medium. The medium and the high security, though, or the
Mm-hmm.
medium, the low, and the high, those are controlled movements. Those are segregation. There's a lot of segregation. But at the camp, there's none. The camp, when I got there, they put me in a room at first before they started actually assigning me a bunk. They did put me with, finally, when they signed me a bunk, they actually put me with a white biker guy who was a really cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I made friends with the people who were in there. The Caucasians were in there. Most of them listened to hard heavy metal. They were in there for either, if they weren't in there for white collar, if they weren't in there for stuff like tax evasion or
Yeah.
money laundering or stuff like that, they were in there for speed, for meth, on ice. There's a lot of Hawaiians in there for ice, and so I had to make.
And this is feds, right? This is the
This is
feds.
feds. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
feds. So I just started talking to people. And as I started talking to people, it was the people that I can relate with the most. And all my friends happen to be black that I made in there, all of them.
Yeah.
And that's who I
Yeah.
hung out with. So I'm hanging out with them most of the time. I had my bunkie, who's a biker guy. He goes, "Hey, it's getting kind of dark over here." And he was just, laughing. I'm like, "Listen, dude." I had another white guy goes, "How come you don't hang out with the white guys?" I go, "Well," I don't listen to speed metal. I don't dress like you guys. I wasn't busted for doing meth. I go, "I have nothing in common. I can't relate." I go, "With these guys, I like, the kind of women I like, the kind of the way I like to dress, the
Same
conversation.
music, the
Yeah,
music you
same
listen to.
music.
Yeah.
all that. And what's funny is the black gentlemen that I hung out with, they were all educated. They weren't hood. These guys are all very intelligent. They actually,
Yeah.
one got busted for HUD fraud. He had bought like 20 homes. They came in, they busted a mortgage company, and when they did that, they needed to get some leverage out of it. So they started going through the paperwork, saw my partner that I made friends with in there, and he wouldn't give him up, and he ended up getting 2 years, and then he ended up having a huge, like a six figure fine. So, and
Wow.
then
That's
the
crazy.
other guy, the other guy I knew, he was driving a bus, or excuse me, a diesel across country delivering marijuana all through. I think got busted somewhere in Indiana or something. So
Yeah.
all the guys I did, they actually had good jobs. They were working, but they were doing dirt, or they were just hustling in other ways. Like I said, with real estate, because that was the real estate boom time.
Yeah.
So they were all educated people. It wasn't like I was just hanging out with crack
Was
dealers
there
and shit like
people
that.
from all over the country in this prison or?
Yeah. So when I got there, literally, so I walked over. It's a camp. It's a working camp. So you have to
Yeah.
have a job. I told them I do electrical work, so they put me with the electrician. So I was getting paid $60 a month, which is really good there. The head
That's
electrician got paid
that's really
120.
good, man. Because I was
Yeah.
making about dollar $6 a week. Yeah, six
Right.
bucks a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So most of the jobs in there are anywhere from 15 to $20 a month that people are making. I'm
Wow.
making $60. That paid for my phone bill for the month. And so I was fortunate with that.
Yeah.
But when I did that, when I got that job, I got to maneuver all myself around the campus. We actually had a truck. We were going to the low, medium. We are changing the lights. We're doing all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I worked on the prison guards' homes. I worked on the warden's home. I was just
And this
maneuvering
this is
myself
the
around.
first time you've ever been to prison, right?
Right. So while this is happening, they start building a DAP program next to us. The DAP program was for all, if you've been busted with a drug offense, and you're looking at more than 2 or 3 years, they'll give you the program to get a year knocked off, but you got to do the program, stay clean, stay with it, can't miss. You just got to follow all their guidelines in order to make it happen. You get released early, and then you go into a halfway house or whatever. So we had to wire that up. So I was doing that a lot. I was over there building that. So while that was happening, you got people being shipped from all over the United States coming to Lompoc to be part of this DAP program. So
Yeah.
they were coming in from all over the place. And a matter of fact, uh, Nelson prison camp in Vegas was closed down. So all of them got shipped over to Lompoc.
Oh man.
So there was people from all over the place. We had Southsiders. We did have a lot of drug dealer type people in there, but mostly everyone there. I was in there with doctors, lawyers, producers,
I
directors.
know it's like a lower security, but do you know of any situations that you've had or you witnessed when you were in there, like people fighting, anything that sticks out to you?
There was a couple times that, there's a couple of dudes in there that talked a big game, like they were, because I was laughing when we were in there, we're saying, hey, you can be anybody you want to be when you're in this place. So
It's
some people
true.
were acting like they were millionaires on the outside and this and that, and they weren't. They're bullshitting, and they kept bullshitting to the point where it started affecting other people because they were making promises they couldn't keep. And once they
Mhm.
started doing that, I remember one night we were sleeping, and we heard someone got a pillowcase and filled it up with a bunch of locks,
Oh,
and
man.
walked over there. It was about to beat the dude with the locks. And the funny part was, it was so dark in the dorm. The guy tripped over a chair and made all kinds of noise, and the dorm lights came on. So he
Oh
was
man.
lucky. This guy was this close from getting his ass beat with that. And then there was a couple other fights out in the We had like a bluff that looked over a bunch of fields, and it was kind of there was no cameras in that area, so people would go over there and they'd fight, and then once the fight was over, they'd step back. No one wants to get in trouble in the camp, because then you get sent back to a lower medium. We
Yeah.
had guys that worked their way down to the camp with their numbers, because everything's on a number system.
Yeah.
So we had guys that were down for 30 years that worked their way from the high to medium to low into the camp to do the rest of their sentence before they can go home. So the camp was just like, it was cake to them. So they didn't want to go. No one wanted to leave the camp.
Yeah, I've been to lower facilities in state prison. I never been to the feds, so and hopefully I never go to the feds. Knock on wood.
Right.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of fighting, and I've seen people fighting guards over. One guy was rolling up a blunt in jail. He was using the paper from the toilet paper
Right.
that's wrapped around. Yeah, he was rolling up, and the cop came in the bathroom and tried to grab his hand, and he punched the cop in the face, and he was in a lower security, and he ended up. Once you do that, you're done. You go right to Summers. They lock you in a cell, and you're done for.
Right.
So thank God I never experienced going from the medium back up to the higher one, but I've watched people do it.
I could tell you a crazy story that people would, I couldn't even believe it when I heard it. So there was this guy Shorty that was he got busted in Laughlin, Laughlin, Nevada. And
Mhm.
he was in with me, and he had a little him and his other partner, they'd have people bring him contraband because he worked at the part of the camp he worked at. He drove he drove a tractor lawnmower, so he had access to outside of the camp, and he knew trails to get down to this creek. So there was a road that went to that creek, so he'd have people meet him there, and they'd have bags of whatever it was, clothes, whatever it was. He'd have all
Was
kinds
it
of stuff.
drugs? Was it drugs
No,
and stuff
no,
or no?
no, it was never drugs. It was just more or less stuff for, that we couldn't get in our commissary. And it
Yeah.
was just stuff, like if it was steroids, if it was protein powders, if it was fruits, vegetables, it was just stuff we couldn't get, clothes, shoes, razors, whatever it was. He would have that stuff brought, and he'd
Anything.
make a little, yeah, and he'd make a little cut on it, with the people.
Yeah.
Well, his guy ended up leaving the camp, so he couldn't get it no more. So he had asked me, and so I introduced him to somebody. They ended up doing all that, and they were working it that way. Well, one day he starts coming up to me and asking me questions about growing. Hey, so how did you grow weed? And I'm giving him information every week or so. He's asking me different questions. I'm not even thinking nothing of it. When I left the camp, I found out about 3 weeks later, him and his partner got busted for growing on the prison camp. I was like, you gotta be fucking
Yeah.
kidding me. This guy was
What?
down for 10 years and they were growing weed on the prison camp, dude. They got I was I shit I was the funniest shit I ever heard in my life. I go,
Like you're
who
not
does
gonna get caught. Like you're not.
right? Right? I mean,
Oh my
and
God.
here I am helping him out, thinking that he's just asking questions. So
Yeah.
it was just the irony is just funny, dude. I couldn't even believe it, dude. It was funny.
Man, you got great stories, man, and I got a lot to do. And do you want to give a shout out before we go? I would definitely want to have you on for a part two, so that we could
Yeah, for
continue.
sure, for
But
sure, for
do you
sure.
want to shout out your show you're on before we
Yeah,
go?
I'm on the Hootie and JC show. I like to give shouts out to Hootie Anthony Russo, to host JC, and I like to give a shout out to Bell Tells, and let everybody know to watch our show. We're going on live streams nowadays, so check it out, and you won't be disappointed. And thanks for your time, and thank you subscribers, and I appreciate you, Sax, for letting me on.
No problem, man. And I'll leave a link in the description so that people can go and see his show. And I'll definitely have him on for part two. It's just my schedule is so full. I gotta keep my next one going, you know.
Keep it moving, buddy.
I want to thank you for coming on, man. And make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you could get my videos every time they drop. And until next time, man, I'll see you guys later.
Deuces.